let's hope that you're all ready. Hello, welcome to stream! Oh my god! I'm half alive. Hello everyone, hello. Hope you all had... Hi, hello, yes. Hope you all had a good holiday, hope you all had a restful holiday. My holidays are always jam-packed with everything and anything, so I am still as tired as per usual. Hello everyone, welcome in, welcome to stream. Welcome to today's roasting stream. Today we are going to be doing live crit, with a little bit more unnecessary sass. How am I? I'm still tired. I mean, I wrote a diagram. Have I ever done a stream not tired? Exactly, right? You'd think I would have come back feeling a little bit more rested because we just got, like, a holiday. I feel exactly the same. But hello, welcome in. Oh, you got a new drawing tablet? My best friend got a new drawing tablet too. Let's go. Tired gang. Let's vibe. Let's go. Happy 2023. Hope you're all doing well though today. Today, as the stream title suggests, we are doing live crit with a little bit of extra sass, throwing in some roasting in there. You can see a bunch of files up at the top. Maybe you see your name there. If you are being critted or roasted today, then you have been sent an email, an additional one. I think you get a confirmation email if you complete the form anyway, but then you'll be getting another one. You will have gotten another one directly from us. So you'll be able to see that there. But yes, before we get going, we all know the drill, because if you didn't know, our growing community is filled with tons of art nerds, and we art nerds have to stick together. So if you're an art nerd too, be sure to check the links to our social media in the description below, and check out our website for our class offerings where you can get critique, guidance, and encouragement from our instructors, because we're not just a YouTube channel, we are an art school too. So if you'd like to support us so we can keep making free content, consider supporting us by becoming a YouTube member for exclusive channel perks like emotes and sub badges, or supporting us on Patreon for as little as $2 per month, where you can get access to tons of perks like my working files, critique sessions, class recordings, and a huge discount on our classes that have a limited amount of spots, so be sure to check those out before they are gone. I will be posting up a working file this week coming up. Imagine having a portfolio. Yeah, same, right? But yes, so this time I have a lot more to say about these ones. I picked less because I was like, okay, I can do 3 within an hour, because I figured I might talk about each one a little bit longer. So I actually don't have submissions this week, so I'm going to do twice as many next week. But we'll be jumping straight into the crits. Part of me is glad, part of me is sad. See, some of the people that I actually saw, because I go through them myself, some of the people that I saw in the submissions were either students that I recognized, or people that I recognized, whether they were, Discord, like, the people that I recognize, whether they were Discord members or my students. And I was like, it feels like nepotism if I choose somebody that I recognize. So I'm like, you know what, we'll choose some people that I've never seen before. I'll do that. 20 minutes per curtains in depth. Can't come up with 20 minutes about my own art. I could be mean, but there's also, I wanted to go over a couple things. How do I sign up? The period's gone. You're done. I wanted to talk about a couple things before we get going. Of the 6 people that I chose, 3 of you apparently do not know how to make a Google Drive folder, because I just got submitted Google Docs. Like, about half of you did that. Like, out of all the submissions, like, half of the people that I chose were Google Docs. A third of the submissions were also Google Docs. You guys just decided to take a Google Doc and copy and paste your images in there. And number one, if you copy paste your images in there, the only way that I can get it as high resolution as possible is downloading it as a PDF and converting it, right? First of all, you're making it harder for me. Second of all, like, I can't just right click and download it. That's not how that works. Like, so now it's like you submitted something, you're like, oh, if I submitted it on a Google Doc, now it is like probably, if it was even higher res than the PDF that you submitted it on, now it's like, it's gonna be even lower res. So it's like I'm gonna comment it and I'm like, oh my god, look at all these, I can see all the pixels. And of course I can, because it's like, it's now on like a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper at 300 dpi. Like, anyway, I was annoyed by seeing that. Second of all, apparently none of you know how to make, some of you don't know how to make a drive folder, that I can see. So, like, maybe like a quarter of you submitted drive folders. I hover over it, and it's like, you don't have access to see this. There's a big blue button on the top right of the screen when you make a Google Drive folder that says share. It says it right there. You just click share, and then and then there's another big button on the bottom that says get shareable link, so that other people can see it. You can't just copy paste the link from the top of the screen and then put it in there. It's not shared. It's still gonna be locked, right? There was like one person who submitted an iCloud link. Bestie, I'm on a PC. And then there was somebody else who submitted like I don't even know what it was. It was just some link, and it was like, oh, the session has expired. And I'm like, okay, I guess I just can't look at this person's work. I didn't even recognize the link. I was like, I guess there's a link here, but like it's not like I can see anything. It just says the session has expired. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, using Mac for iCloud though, it still wouldn't let me in. It still would not let me in. I clicked it and it was like, you can't open this. I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. That's fantastic. Do we need to put out like a tutorial for you people? Like, should we do a Google Doc and like have it like, here's how you make a Google Drive link for the first time? Like, the amount of people that I've had to teach how to make a Google Drive link, coworkers including, I'm like, wait, I feel like that's something that you need to do nowadays. Especially, you know. Yes, it is Googleable. It's even Googleable. If you've never done it before, you just go how to share a Google Drive folder. It's not as easy. It's just like, you can't, even still, there's like a little, like, it's a big blue button. If you made a tutorial like that, my jokes would literally never end. It's okay, Oz, I deserve it. There's literally like there's a big blue button in the top corner. Do you see? Hang on, let me just create it. Let me just show you for a second. Alright, let me create a new folder real quick on Google Drive, and let me, even if I made a Google Doc, because some of you submitted Google Docs that you didn't share with me, right? Google Doc, big blue button right here, right? There's a giant big blue button right there. Not that hard to miss, right? Maybe it's a little bit harder for you to miss in here. Maybe that's a little bit too much for you. There's an arrow here. You click that. Get link. And right now, it says it's restricted. So you click on that, and you click on anyone with the link. You can make me a viewer, a commenter, editor. Viewer works just fine. And then you can click this big blue text that says copy link. Or you can hit done. But you copy the link, and then you share it. It's not that hard. It's really not. It's really not. Am I okay? No! I was like, come on! I was like, there was like a good chunk of you that didn't know how to, like, it's like a chunk of you that didn't know how to create a Google Drive folder. And if, like, you've never created one before, why wouldn't you look up a tutorial? You know? I'm so I'm so upset. Like, some of you that submitted that, like, that you didn't create the proper drive file for could have been great. I could have been like, oh, this is really great work. And, like, I could have chosen you, and I would have been like, that's great, that's awesome. Or I probably wouldn't have, and I just would have stared at it and gone, that's some good art. Or maybe I would have laughed at it and picked you. But, like, either or, right? You know, is learn how to use Google Drive. You will need it in the future. Anyway. Get worked up. That's the spirit. I don't need to get worked up. I'm angry all the time. This is kind of just like my constant state. 20 out of 10 tutorial. Thank you. Oh my god. How long have I been doing art? As long as I've been born. You had to use a Google Drive? Yeah, you need to use a folder. Please don't be upset. It's a roasting stream. I kind of gotta be. That's my secret cap. I'm always angry. So true. God. I need you to all know. I need you to all know, right? I've been gone for 2 weeks. We've all been gone for 2 weeks. Hello. Welcome back. Hope your holiday was good. I've been gone for 2 weeks. And my sleep schedule has been irreparably damaged. And I got 5 hours of sleep last night, which is like, some people are like, oh, that's crazy. That's a good amount of sleep. And to which I say to you, no, that's crazy. 5 hours is not enough sleep. Missed you. Thank you. I appreciate it. 5 hours is not enough. Like, I went to bed at maybe like 4, and then I woke up at 9, and I fell back asleep, and then my boyfriend called and was like, Jess, shouldn't you be up by now? And I'm like, yeah, probably. and now I'm like, I have so many commissions to finish, and I am tired. Anyway. I got angry when sometime in the late 90s and decided to stay like that. Okay, off. Alright. Let's get going then. Let's get started before I just continue to babble and don't think about anything for a little while. So this one is by Bahra. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing anything. Or Bahra Art. Oh! Also, some of you submitted handles and were like, oh, this is my handle. What platform, bestie? What platform? This could be TikTok, this could be Instagram, this could be Twitter. Like, you can't just give me an @ and then expect me to go find you. I'm not gonna do that. Right? There's a lot of people here, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be the one who's gonna go and try and find you on social media, okay? There was over 150 submissions. I'm not gonna do that to every single person. That just gives me an @ and doesn't tell me where it is, okay? And by the way, that was most of you. That was not like, it's just like, oh, it's just half, oh, it's a quarter. That was like a good, like, 90% of you. You gave me a handle, you didn't tell me where it was. I'm like, cool. Alright, so this one is Bahar Art. It's, hang on. I'm so sorry. I don't want to draw on top, but, like, it's Bahar Art. That's an ART_B. On wherever. You didn't give me a you did not give me a platform, so you're stuck with that. That's all you get. This is okay, so by all intensive purposes, this is not bad. It's just not good, right? Here's another thing, is some of you were like, oh, I'm submitting this, but it's not finished. And I'm like, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna go easier on you. If anything, it means that I'm gonna go harder on you, because now you have room to continue and complete it with my guidance, right? So now I'm just gonna, like, go into this worse, right? Regardless. Here's what we're gonna do, right? This is one of those people that submitted and they decided to use a fun little Google Docs, so I had to download it as a PDF and convert it. Look at them, crunchy pixels. Look at that, that's delicious, right? Please submit properly next time if anybody submitted something, right? Please. Anyway, here's this fun little thing. When I see people paint for the first time, or paint and they don't really know how to digitally paint and they're a little bit too precious about everything, right? You see how harsh these edges are? See how harsh all of this is? Let me put another layer on top of here. See how harsh all of these edges are right here? This was a pattern that I saw in all of their work, by the way. A lot of you submitted more than one, which is great. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna go through all of it. How dare you think that I would? So, you see how harsh this edge is, how harsh this edge is, how harsh that... It's not natural looking, man. And then you just have nothing but soft... You used a soft brush, and you use nothing but a soft brush. Does that mean that using a soft brush is bad? No. But... if you use nothing but the soft brush, you're not getting a nice, like, blend in there. Right now, what I'm looking at, it's super unfinished, but it's unfinished in more than one way. So let's take a look at that. Let's go through that. I always find that the meanest crit are the ones that are true. So ones that are true that you can't do anything about. So let's go over this one. Let's fix this in a couple of ways, right? So let's take a look at these, right? Straight off the bat, right? All of this entire face, really, you know what? Actually, you did all right with the values. I think you could have bumped it up more, but you did okay with the values. I'll give you that. Let's flip this canvas really quick, though. Let's not look at this from the right side. Ooh, yeah. So what we have right here... Oh wait, no, I was gonna split this into two. We'll do the anatomy bits afterwards, but let's focus on the rendering right now. Rendering always looks better when you have a mix of hard edges and soft edges, especially with the bottom of your nose here. Like, you would have really benefited from, like, a much harsher blend by comparison to something that's a lot softer, right? You clearly use two different layers for your lights and your shadows down here as well, but you put your shadow layer on top of your light layer, which is, you shouldn't do that. So let's redo this, right? Looks a lot better if you have a harsher edge with the nose, right? You don't want to make everything a soft edge. Usually if you kind of blend the two, it makes it look a little bit stronger. Right here you've got more of a triangle. Let's not outline the bridge too much. Your light source is also unclear, right? We've kind of got everything straight from the front here, but you've got more shadow here, but you're not really getting the shadow here. There's no form to the arm! Hang on. Sorry, I just saw this. I don't get this. Why is there shadow here but not here? If this is one whole side of the body, this should all be in shadow here. This isn't like something... When we are shading, okay, when we are painting, this goes out to all of you who are not really great with painting, who are kind of just starting, who don't really know what they're doing, right? Here's the beauty of this, right? Is that when painters first start, when digital painters first start, what they do is they take whatever it is that they are illustrating and they lock the layer. Like they make like a hard shape and then they lock the layer and blend on top of that. Don't do that. Unless if you have like line art or it's a little bit more cartoony. If you're trying to make something hyper realistic and you lock this hard edged layer and paint really soft inside of it, it will not look good. Period. It just won't, right? These edges are far too sharp, like far too sharp. Let's kind of blend this back in a little bit, despite them being two different shapes. But if you make it a little bit softer to match the rest of the brushes, instantly it looks a little bit more natural, right? Rather than these really hard digital edges. You want to bring some of that naturalistic feeling back, especially if there is bounce light. There's bounce light everywhere in this. Look at how much gold is here, right? Things are going to be reflective. Look at how reflective she's implied to be, right? She's got a real shiny face. If she's going to be shiny, that means that the rest of her is going to be too, right? So that means that we're going to have to bring some of this color back onto this person, right? We're not just going to leave them as like a hard edge figure, right? We want to bring some of that softness back in, right? We even have something with gold here, right? But because it's just, again, a locked shape, you blend it inside of it and said you're done. You're not done. You're really not, right? Let's bring this back in here. Right? Let's say we added a little bit of shadow here because yes, because it's a bracelet, there will be a little bit of extra molding beneath here. Yes, we don't want to leave it as just a flat shape. Look at how much nicer that looks. Oh, I went directly on top. My bad. I should have done another layer. That's okay, whatever. Right? It's really easy. It's not that bad. Because a lot of the times when people like paint or digitally paint or whatever, like digital painters who are painting for the first time observe less than you'd think. Because they're like, they hear observational illustration and they get scared. They're like, oh, realism. I'm getting spooked. Alright? Every cartoonist that you know can do realism. I can do realism. Do I like to? No. But can I? Yes. Alright? It will benefit you, I promise. Alright? But look at that. Compare this to this, right? This feels more concrete. It's more observational. This one feels like I took the shape tool and added like a, you know, like a paint bucket in there, right? Much stronger that way. But you didn't get all the blending of the lines out either. See, this one's unfinished too, so it's like there's a lot here. Let's go over the anatomy now. Let's focus less on the blending. Let's focus more on the anatomy now. Let's take a look at this person here because there's a lot I could point out real quick. No, God. Because this was a PDF, I have to make the background myself. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. Okay. Is the music fine, by the way? Do you need to turn it down? Need to turn me up? Need to turn me down? Anything like that? Now, when we do stuff realistically, right? Realism artists, especially beginner ones, will even if they're not beginners, even if they're like seasoned ones, realism is a lot of copying. It's gonna be rare that they ever do stuff from imagination. So more likely than not, they took a reference and they decided to work with this one. We're all good? All right, excellent. So let's take a quick look here at this anatomy. Let's move this to another layer before I forget. Let's take a look at this real quick. Let's take a... Oh no, let's not clip that because that is going to be the same opacity. Let's flip this real quick. Ooh, okay. Once again, I have to look at this again. So, let's take this head shape, right? We have the edge of the eye right here, so let's bring this around. Let's find the circle of the head, right? If we kind of have this edge right here. My bad. I'm trying to find the form of the head here. Because if that's the edge of the head, then the rest of it continues down to here. Like this, right? Take a look at these eyes for a second. Do we already see what's kind of going on here, right? We're not really, you know, okay? So we already kind of see what's going on over here, right? If we take the shape of the head that we already have, presumably, right? We already see what's going on, right? The nose, if we took the nose and said that that was the center, sure. But notice her head is at an angle. She's looking up at an angle. That means her eyes need to be different. Right now, she took the same eye, copy-pasted it, and went over the side. Here's my hot take, right? I don't care whatever digital artists come after me. Oz, I know you're in here, and I know you love to do this, and I don't care. Flipping the eyes, you shouldn't do it. I'm just gonna say it. You shouldn't do it. Unless if the person is staring directly head on, and you know what you're doing, don't just take the eye and flip it, okay? If the person is at a 3/4 angle, and you take the eye and you just go, okay, I'm gonna flip it and just put it there and maybe like just change the height a little bit, don't do that. That's not how the face works. Literally never draw on the second eye, right? You should. Either you do it and you fix it, or you don't do it at all, right? It works to flip the eyes only if the person is facing head on. If the person is at a 3/4, you wouldn't copy it if it was a perfect side, right? That kind of fun jazz, right? This person copy pasted. You can kind of tell, all right? You can tell because the eye is very similar. The pattern of the eyelashes is pretty close, right? Even if they didn't, regardless, it is like they took the same shape and flipped it, right? Don't do that. The eye is a sphere. Let's take a look at where those two would rest right now, right? This eye would be closer to here. This eye would be closer to here, right? It'd actually be smaller than that, though. Be more like... maybe. It'd be more like that, probably, if we're going for something a little bit more realistic. Right? So we have one eye. Because we have... it's like we've got two bits that are wrapped around the sphere. Right? So we've got one here, and we've got one here. Notice that the eye shape changes. It's the same height, because it should be the same height, but the shape of the eye overall changes. Imagine that you have a sphere and you've got a pair of piranha plant lips on top of it where the ends stop in the center of that sphere. That is the shape of your eye. If you are doing that in multiple different angles, the shape of your eye will change. If you have your head in a 3/4, both of your eyes will not be like this. They will not be the same. One eye, the one that is farther away, you will see it pointed outwards more because it is at a separate section. Your eyes don't converge together, they point slightly apart. You're not going to have them both looking at the exact same angle. Your pupils might, but your lids do not change. So if your lids stay static, your eyes are like it's a ball in a socket, right? The positioning of the lids do not change. It is the ball inside them that does. So the shape of the eye itself is a fixed position. It will not move. It is something that you need to understand. It will look different between both eyes, but it will never look exactly the same if you are in anything other than a full frontal. Okay, so let's say that we still wanted her to look up. right? Look at how much nicer that positioning of the eyes are, right? Easier to read. And that means that the nose would be positioned more like this, if we still wanted that there. And the lips would be more like this. Well, not exactly like that, but yeah. That should be fixed. Obviously, not everybody looks exactly the same, so it's like it's gonna be different from person to person. Right. And the eyelashes will go with whatever direction or whatever perspective the eye is in. Do not try to force them all going in the exact same direction. I apologize if I'm not reading chat, I am focusing. This eye actually is too far out here. It should be farther back here, yeah. Well, not necessarily. You could have the eyes a little bit farther apart, but yeah, it should be farther in anyway. However position you wanted the eyes to be in, really. You just gotta kind of keep the general shape the same. Or, if you wanted the face directly from the front, this eye should not be touching the side at all, right? The issue is that whenever I see facial anatomy and it looks really off, it's because they're mixing a bunch of angles together. It's never, oh, this is all incorrect, you should never do this. It's, you have a front-facing face on a 3/4 head, or you have a 3/4 face on a front-facing head, that kind of thing. With this one, if you wanted to keep that face shape, that head would have to be different. So if we wanted to keep this face, the head should be more like this. Alright. Because really, this face is not incorrect. You just had the wrong head. Right? Your head is in the wrong angle. If you just went back in and changed the shape of the face, change the shape of the head all the way, you're fine. Like, obviously there's rendering issues. I'm not going to go over all of them, but there are. And then let's take a look at the body real quick. Because we're not done here. Let's take a look at this body really quick, right? Right here, we see the top of the shoulder. We call this our deltoid, right? Our delts are up here. Yeah, because the bicep is, yeah. So we have our delts up here. The acromion process would be right here-ish somewhere, right? If we have our neck coming down here, the other side of the neck would be coming here based on the head. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Shoulder would be right here. Actually, no, let's just trace what we have right here. So we have kind of a lack of muscle going on here, which is fine, I suppose. Let's estimate. And we have the arm coming all the way up here, doing this fun magic. And then it does this. Tell me you're a portrait artist without telling me you're a portrait artist and do not work with bodies, right? Because then we have the top of the chest all the way up here, based on the estimation of where the breasts are. They start all the way up here. Like, all the way up here is where they start. And then we have this. And then this arm is like this thin and starts all the way back there. And now let's flip. Now, why is that elbow all the way up there? Let's take a gander with this real quick. All right, let's take another peek at this one. Let's just, yeah. So, okay. I'm trying to make these layers readable. I'll fix them later. To all of you who submit, you will be receiving your working file. Afterwards, I will be emailing you all personally. But yes, let's take a look at this real quick. What we got here, our neck. These are called our sternocleidomastoids, if you've ever drawn this section of your neck, like those two little lines that come down from your ears. That is called the sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid, or the SCM, and then right here is your jugular notch. That's that little U that connects onto your collarbone. Right here you have a bit of your, I believe that's your trapezius that comes across, and then you have your deltoid. Let's say that we kept this delt exactly here, right? The chest, pectoral muscles kind of start right up here. They start up here, but they come down all the way down to here, right? Your pectoral muscles do come all the way down here, but that's on men. That is your surface anatomy pectoral muscle. With women, we've got a little bit more up here. So they will sag. Think of it as if you have a water balloon and you've taken a thumbtack and you've stuck it onto the wall. That water balloon will hang off the wall like that, right? That is exactly what happens with women. If you have them still, if you have those directly there, you're either completely flat-chested or you have a really perky bra, right? So let's bring this down. If we have, because you wanted to make her a little bit bustier based on how you've drawn this. So let's say we want to keep the bust. So we want to bring those down here with a natural sag. By comparison to them being all the way up there. And that will go between your deltoid and your bicep. So your arm will come right here. And we don't really need to think too hard about the rest. Just know that it's kind of a baseball bat shape, especially if you're not really used to muscle structure. Then don't worry about it. So if we have one arm up here, one going down here, it's gonna be filled in here. Don't forget that you still have the shape of this arm. If we don't even want it that muscular, right? Let's say that we still keep this kind of like thinner arm shape. Let's take this width and let's move it. Look at how much you're missing. There's so much missing there. Let's say that we want to, you know, let's bring that meat back on her bones. There is going to be her arm right here, and her elbow is going to be down right here. That's going to be the start of her next arm. You actually got the rest just fine. It's just this upper section that really bothered me. All right? Oops. Here. Right? Let's take a look at that difference. Anatomy is very important. Make sure that you really observe this kind of thing. Alright. Oh, we're already a half hour in. Perhaps I should have chosen less. Alright. On to the next one. Thank you for submitting this. Thank you for being a good sport. Alright, on to the next one. Oh, I can just delete this. It's okay. I sent it to enough people. Ooh, okay. So this is another individual who submitted a Google Doc to me. Please learn how to use Google Drive. You've been in school for who knows how long. Who is this person? I don't remember. Well, it says that right there. This person is named, his name is Fourth Act. You didn't give me a handle at all. So, Fourth Act he will stay as Fourth Act. Let's see here really quick. I still have the list down here. Yeah, Fourth Act. Yeah, okay. There's nothing else I needed to see. Okay. Let's see here. Alright. The first thing that I noticed was the background. And that's the issue. Your background overtakes your character. I'm just gonna say it. You wrote all this as well. I can't read this. Alright. If you are like, oh, I'm gonna do a handwriting thing, please. Okay, I know this is a roasting stream, but this is like kind of mean. But like, practice your handwriting, please. If you're gonna handwrite something, don't just like, you can't just write like a bit like messier. Like you're gonna want to like practice like, I know this is curves slightly around. This is an R. If you want to like write and do that handwritten thing, perfectly fine, right? Just make sure you have the ability to write legibly. Right? You as an artist need to make sure that every single portion of you is honed. I'm saying this because you did a character reference sheet. Character reference sheets are one of those things where people are like, I'll just slap the information on here and we're all done here. Absolutely not. Character reference sheets are one of the most difficult things that you have to organize because you need to understand your layout design, you need to understand your graphic design, you need to understand your, like your organization of the character, right? And you need to really, really, you know, be able to organize this information so where it's easier for the reader or for the viewer to see what's going on. They can see your process and there's a natural flow, right? I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know where to start looking, right? I look at this character. It's hard to see them because we have this terrible texture going on in the background. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be like sheet metal? I don't get it. But we have this terrible texture going on in the background. By the way, if you want to do any kind of character design, gray gradient or just a warm gray in the background, solid color, you're good. You don't need anything else. I literally have, like, I have a gradient set. It's called my concept artist gradient. I just use it over and over. It's easier that way. And like this, you have all your text all the way back here. It is so close to the edges. Everything here is so close to the edges. I have no room to breathe. When we have everything really close to the edges, you call this a tangent. You are choking out your illustration. It is making everything really, really tough to look at, right? This was something that was kind of common with a lot of your work, is that you had a lot of choking at the edges. And like layout-wise, there's a lot that you can change, right? If you just added a little bit of space around the edges, it would already feel a lot nicer. Let's just do that. Let's just say that we added a bit of like, it's awful because it's like this. Hang on. You did this gradient in the back and I hate it. Hang on. Oops. Let's just like pretend that like I'm trying to copy this in any capacity. Right, already with a little bit of extra breathing room, now the text doesn't feel so like, oh my god, I'm gonna die on how tight everything is. When they say to tighten something up, they don't mean to make it hard for the viewer to breathe, right? We want that room to be able to feel the illustration. We don't want to sit here and be like, oh man, everything is so close to the edges, right? We want to be able to breathe. Super crowded. You didn't really use reference for it. Oh, I can tell. Oh, this is you! LOL. You're bold coming into the chat during this, too. Let's talk about the characters themselves. Rather than layout itself, let's talk about the character. Let's take a look at this real quick. Now, we've got our standard, like, I'm drawing furry-esque, or what's the... I wouldn't say furry. I could say furry, but I'm not gonna. Anthropomorphic characters for the first time. This kind of style, I'm drawing big, fluffy, anthropomorphic characters. For one of the first times, I'm still trying to figure it out, or I saw, like, this bigger body type, and I'm gonna copy it without understanding how it goes. Let's take a look at the character themselves, real quick. I'm gonna show you something. Hang on. This one can go into... This one can go into layout. Actually, let me do some writing on the layout one too. It's like we have all our text here. It's unbalanced, is the main thing. If we're gonna have text on a reference sheet, make sure that you have it throughout and in ways that is organized for the viewer to be able to see. Right? We want to be able to see that properly. So let's take a look at this one. I guess exhaustion doesn't make me angry. It just makes me apathetic. Let's take a look at this real quick. Oh, freehand totally looks more alive. I will never turn down freehand. If you have decided, oh, I'm gonna make freehand I'm gonna freehand anything, I prefer freehand. Freehand is like something that I do very, very frequently. Just make sure that you can write and let it be legible, right? Let me show you a freehanded thing that I've done before. Where's that assignment? Yeah, freehand is great. I will 100% encourage freehand. Freehand is something that I'm like, if you have the option of doing freehand, please. Like, it'll be better for you, I promise. This is freehanded, right? This is my handwriting. If you can freehand and you're like, oh, I want it to be like text that's readable and easy, like all of this is freehanded. It's easy enough, right? Freehand looks far more natural, right? You want freehand to get that bit of a, give you a bit of an edge to it, right? Like, you can tell when something is freehanded versus when it's text. Is this how I normally write? Absolutely not. My handwriting is messy. I just took the time. If you're gonna write in your normal handwriting, make sure that your normal handwriting is beautiful, right? If you're gonna write, because like, if I was to write with this normal text right now, like if I was just, like that's my normal handwriting, or my normal handwriting is this. I would never work on a concept page with that text if I was to write in my own handwriting. I would either work with something like this, clean up my, you know, my proper print, or I would slow down with my script. But I would also never write a full thing in script unless I wanted it to be decorative, right? Graphic design is something that you should actually learn the very, very basics of if you're going to be an illustrator or if you're going to be a character designer. But alright, let's take a look at this one more time. I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind. Alright, you've got the foot down here. First of all, if you're going to do a character turnaround, make sure that this foot is flat on the ground. Doesn't matter if they are a digitigrade, plantigrade, whatever. Doesn't matter. Alright, you've got this line, starts all the way back up here. Do you notice that that line doesn't finish at the back of the spine? It's because it's unbalanced. This character is super far back, like super far back. Because we have this digitigrade here, if I'm thinking that this is the thigh, right, and we're coming back here, this leg is coming forwards like this. And then we have the body far back here, and we have the bicep back here, right? This is so far leaned back, like so far leaned back. Like super far leaned back. If we wanted this character to be more balanced, in a way where it actually feels like they're standing upright, right? We would have to make sure when we curve the spine, the neck goes in like this. This is our cervical vertebrae. That's our neck. Our thoracic or our rib cage curves out like this. Lumbar curves in. That's our lower back, like this. And then it ends at the pelvis, right? We need to make sure that we are keeping that in mind, regardless of if it is a species that is, you know, not human or not, right? We want to make sure we keep that in mind because we need to make up for that balance. Especially if we have a tail back here. We need to make sure that our character feels like it is balanced and steady on the ground. Also, our bicep, or sorry, not our bicep, our deltoid is not all the way back here. Did I keep on saying bicep? My bad. Our deltoid is not all the way back here. Take a look at, you have a mirror. If you have a mirror right there in front of you, take a look at your arm right now. Try and move it all the way back there. It's not happening. It's not happening. Your delt is right here. It'll start kind of in the center and come down. Here's the thing as well, right? When we have a character sheet, if you are doing a turnaround, you need to make sure, if you are doing a turnaround of some kind, you need to make sure that this thing is equal on all sides, right? This is stuff that your, like, prof or the person that you're working for will notice. You see how this one is in front here? Why is it in the front and the back as well? What that implies to me is that there is a chunk taken out of this shape, and I can see it on both sides, in which then this arm is completely unstable and does not work in here, right? This one does not work on here, right? See this in the front here. If we are looking at this one directly at the front, or even at a 3/4, then why can I still see this pattern really close to the front while we're looking at the side? If we are looking at this directly from the front here, this pattern should be more like that if we are doing a perfect side view, right? And because we are looking at this pad is in front, this one is behind, this should be like this, and then this back leg is coming up here, which, by the way, does not make a lot of sense. Number one thing when it comes to designing any kind of anatomy is please let it flow into each other, right? We want to make sure that everything feels like it has a flow. This feels like nothing but segments, right? We are looking at a very, very segmented body. Does that work for robots? Sure. But even with robots, we have some kind of natural flow to that figure, right? Right now, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a strange shape for the chest, and then there's like a section for the stomach, and then there's no pelvis, and instead we just have these two shapes like this for the thighs, and then these two shapes like this for the bottoms. It is causing a pillowing effect. When we have somebody who is a little bit heftier, we want to make sure that even that person's form flows into itself, right? We're not just gonna draw them as different segments. When you draw somebody who is heftier, they are not just pillows. They have proper parts of their bodies that actually flow into each other. Alright, this actually should be lower if that's the kind of body I'm going for. Right, so if we had this leg, let's take this leg for a second. If we really wanted to keep that shape in there, you can have that for the thigh, and maybe, because I don't understand what this shape is. Actually, there's an advantage to you being here. What is this supposed to be? What is this supposed to be? You can give me your artist statement. I don't really understand what this shape is supposed to be, like the thigh. Like, is it like a separate segment? Is it like something that wraps around? Is it like a shield or something? That's the advantage to you being here, is that you can defend yourself. Did you know that sometimes they call a crit a defense? I didn't know that until the Starbucks employee told me. He saw my portfolio and was like, oh, you have a defense today? And I was like, a what? And he's like, a critique. And I'm like, is that what it's called sometimes? Anyway. But I don't understand what this is, because, like, again, it's just kind of like, it kind of just feels like you got like a pool ball attached to your torso there. Common things the person doesn't really understand it, so I don't use it properly. Okay, well then that's a problem with the with the design itself then, right? So let's say that those are like robotic legs. If we have like this stomach there, this furry body, if we've got like the stomach here, we're kind of let's treat this a little bit like pants. If we've got like our pelvis here, right, we've got the fur that goes into the robotic section, then we need to understand how that hinge works. So let's say that we keep up that thigh there. Let's actually do this on the side. Let's say that we kept up, like, you know, the stomach here. Again, there's heft. You're going to want to let it sag. Let's say that we kept the pelvis in there, and then we have our thigh coming up through here. It's a very awkward design because of, like, you have like this fuzzy portion going into this non-fuzzy portion. It's like, it looks very strange. So say we've got this thigh here, you're gonna want something that connects these two. You don't just want it to be like, oh, this is one section, and now we're gonna go into the organics. Let's say that you brought this up more. You're like, how am I gonna connect these two sections? If you wanted to make it more robotic, you could add like a hinge joint here, because that is what the knee is. Your knee is a hinge joint. Your femur right here will hinge onto your ulna of your calf. So what you're gonna want to do is, like, you can either create like a hinge thingy here and have that attach onto your leg like this. and have it come like that. Or what you could do is make it like a sleeve. Say if like maybe you wanted this to be like it's a sleeve over top, then you could do that too. Right? There's a couple ways that you could do it that makes it make more sense. If you just make it one shape and then the next shape, it's gonna look awkward, I promise. And then just always make sure that your tail is coming from the correct section. Don't just like put it, because this is like the upper back. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, because this, if we follow through with this shape, the tail starts up here. When we are doing, again, any kind of character reference, when we are drawing perfectly from the side, we are drawing perfectly from the side. Do not bother trying to draw the other horns. If you have 2 horns, I'm trying to look here. Okay, so you've got one short one, one long one. Okay. Don't bother drawing the other ears then. If you've got 2 ears and you're showing one here and then you're showing another one here, if this is a character reference sheet, this should be perfectly reversible, right? We're looking at a turnaround. It all needs to be measured perfectly. If you've got another one here, if you've got like one horn like here and you've got another one behind it, unless if it is also just slightly forwards, like you can do that for sure. But if they are aligned, then it'll actually look like this, right? Yeah. I would actually also recommend if you had like 3 poses, make your first one a fully frontal, not a 3/4. It'll make it easier in the long run. But yeah, I'd recommend if you're gonna work with heftier body types, reference them like crazy. Like I wouldn't. Yeah, it's one of those things where people will be like, oh, I can draw heavier people, and then they draw a bunch of circles, and you're like, okay, well, I look like I'm looking at the Michelin Man right now. But yes, turnarounds are nothing but measurements. Turnarounds are like nothing but measurements. If you're gonna do a turnaround, you gotta measure. Like crazy. Okay, next one, because we're getting close to the hour, and we've still got some time for a lot of them. Why does it always automatically go to that one? Ooh, yes, another Google Doc person! Great! Fantastic! Okay. So this is Ray. They're another person who submitted to me a handle with no social media attached to it. So Ray_47. I don't know. I don't know where you want me to. I'm not going to. I'm not even gonna bother. There's a lot to go over with this one too. You submitted a bunch of them. There was a lot for me to choose from. Thank you. I could have chosen any of yours and I would have had the same amount of fun. I'm not gonna lie. What's wrong with Google Doc? I'm just stupid. Oh wait, I already had a rant about it, kid. I'm not doing it again. There'd be no nose. Here's the thing, is that no nose characters are fine with me. When you decide to like omit something, some people omit eyebrows, some people I would never omit eyebrows, but if you omit eyebrows, then like I guess that's up to you. A lot of people omit noses, sure. It works better with some styles than others though. Where do I start? Okay, so here's the thing, is that this is one of those pieces where it's like you're so close. You're so close to greatness, right? And you're like, oh, there's just such, like, few things that you could change, and it's like, oh, it's like a decent piece, right? This one's, like, not bad. This person... Hang on. Let's take a look here. You know what? This person, like, I'm gonna, you still said roast me as hard as you can, so I will, and I won't hold back for whatever, like, crit I give you. But, you know, this person, I applaud you for submitting. Just because of the information you gave me, I applaud you for submitting. Good job. People twice your size would never. So let's take a peek at this. Let's really go over this one in depth a little bit more, because the ones... There's some stuff with the rendering, of course, but the heavier stuff to me is the anatomy. Let's take a look here. Also, we've got the typical anime girl licking the blood off the knife. It's not sanitary, and I've always hated it. So, let's take a look at this real quick. When I say that I'm gonna like, oh, I'm gonna like crit like crazy, it's literally me going like, oh, I usually hold back a little bit when I crit people. I'm just saying everything that comes to mind. Okay. Yellow teeth? No, you usually want a little bit of yellowness to your teeth or your eyes. If you're illustrating a person, never use pure white for the eyes or teeth. It looks unnatural. It'll always look better if you use like a slight yellowed, you know, slight yellowed color. Let's take a look at this anatomy real quick. Another example of somebody who took the eyes and flipped them and said, okay, we're done here. Don't do that unless if you know what you're doing. So let's take a look at the head shape here really quick. So again, we got the chin that comes down here. Thankfully, all anime artists make their heads look really similar, so it doesn't matter, and I can find the shape of this head really easily. So let's take a look at this. And they also really love the mirror tool. So let's take a look at this really quick, right? We've got our eyes on this angle, you know, not bad. We've got our eyes on this angle, sure, we've got them directly here, right? Not too shabby. Our neck, however, comes all the way like this. That's how long our neck is going if this is where our shoulders are, right? If this is where our shoulders are, and then we've got our wrist right here, and that means that we're coming down like this based on the size of everything. And then we've got the torso that does this kind of magic. And I don't know where this arm goes. So this one's, it's pretty small. This like neck is far too long, and then you have like your hand right here, which it kind of does this funky thing around the handle, which doesn't make a lot of sense. The arm isn't the worst, it ends way too short. Here's a tip for all of you: if you are doing a bust shot, if you're doing any kind of bust shot, draw the entire figure first before you actually just do this section. You're gonna want to. What I'm not looking at is the body quite as much. I just noticed it just now. What we're gonna look at is the face. I'm actually gonna get rid of that hand for a second because the hand is not as important. We're gonna look at the face really quick, right? These ears, oh boy, let's take a look at those. And the mouth is all the way down here, and it is open and all the way up like this, and our tongue is coming from the ceiling, and we've got our two little beaver teeth like this, and then our eyes are huge, right? Our ears, not this tiny, my friends. I'm pretty sure you can guess that our ears are not this tiny, but you can make ears tiny, but don't align them with the eyes. Like, if you're gonna make your ears tiny, align them with the bottom of the nose. Like, if you're gonna make them that tiny, then at least align them with the bottom of the nose. You're gonna want to. In that case, you don't have a nose here, but let's draw in like a tiny little anime nose for you, just so we can have that there for reference, right? If you're gonna draw in tiny ears, align them with the bottom of the nose, because that feels a lot more natural than having them align with the top of the eyes. Why? Because I think... You know, I don't know why. It just always looks more natural. I was trying to like think of like, why does it look more natural? I guess I'll just look into that anatomically. But notice that it's the same shaped, it's the same sized ear, I just moved it down, right? Looks a lot easier. Looks a lot nicer. If I was to give them the proper shaped ear, proper size, they would be like that. Right? That would be how large your ears would need to be. Top of the eyes, bottom of the nose. Easy as pie. Usually as well, when you're doing any kind of anatomy, your eyes, like the very basic way of thinking of it is that your face is like 5 eyes long. Anime artists break that rule all the time, so I'm not even gonna bother. However, your eyebrows seem to go off the head here, and let's not do that. You're gonna want to move them towards your eye, right? It would look better if they move a little bit closer inwards, right? Our tongue as well is not this tiny. Look at how tiny this tongue is. It is smaller than your eye. Like, it's so tiny, right? Here's a thing that Here's a thing that artists will do, like younger artists or beginner artists will do, is they will try and focus on aesthetic more than they will correctness. Focus on correctness more before your aesthetic. Once you have the correctness down, then you can focus on aesthetic. So if we have our mouth this small, which by the way, it can be that small if you want, then you just need to make sure that everything else is still the okay size, right? Your tongue, if this is how big your mouth is, right? Let's draw in the skeleton. Let's do something, let's do some fun stuff. If we have the teeth down here, that means that it should go like that. Our maxilla's here. Then the jaw comes down. If we're opening our jaw, oh, by the way, this should be wider if this is what our jaw is opening up to. Our bottom row of teeth should be like this. And then our tongue will be more like this. Our tongue will open up a little bit more like that. If you wanted to show the same amount of teeth, your tongue would be fitting real, like, small through that, right? You're gonna want to make that a lot bigger. So your tongue would be more like that size. Alright. Can we all still hear me? Give me a 1 in chat if you can still hear me, because it's on my end, it's a little bit wonky. 1? Okay, cool. Excellent, thank you. I just needed to double check, because it's like, it's loading on my end, and it's awful. Anyway, let's focus on rendering now, because I've got, like, a couple things to say about the rendering. I could have gone on about the anatomy, we're already taking too long. These files are very disorganized, and I apologize. I'll fix them later. Alright. That's not how you spell rendering. Oh well. So, let's take a look at this for a second, right? Here's another fun little thing that I see beginner artists do. They take the blood and they choose a dark red color and they slap it on there and they're like, that's perfect. Don't. Please don't do that. When we have blood is a very dark, thick substance. You're gonna want to add in more color variation than that, especially where it pools. Deepen that even more. You're gonna want to bring that up, especially if it's like that. And blood is something that's like, it's a liquid, right? This is also so thick. If you have it all laid on here like this, that's crazy. If it's gonna be like sopping in blood, then you won't have this. It'll just be like filled in like that. And then you just have to worry about the rendering of the blood itself, which in that case is a lot tougher, right? I'm not gonna sit here and render out blood because that's gonna take forever as I continue to render out this blood, but it'll more likely than not, you know, fade on that. It's unfortunate, but you're gonna have to look up references. It's one of those things where it's like, it's a lot easier if you look up a reference, right? So blood, whenever I have to draw blood, I again lean it more to the orange. You have like your droplet, you can choose like a general dark shade of red. Darker in the center. Let it get a little bit light. This is a very stylized way of doing it, but this is kind of how I approach it. Darker in the center, lighter on the outside. And then you can have like more highlights peeking through. And then if you wanted like an extremely bright highlight, you start with oranges and then get closer to the yellows and light it up a little bit. Alright, blood is something that's, it's something that you need a lot of reference for. I'm not really great at doing it off the top of my head. But if you're licking it as well, it will streak. It will smear. So what'll happen is you have like a smear going through here, and it will smear on the bottom of the tongue as well. It's not gonna be like oh, it's just like that. You're gonna have it smearing a little bit. Also, because the tongue is flat, what it looks like is you're touching the bottom of the tongue, like the knife with the bottom of the tongue. So really, you're only gonna get blood at the tip of the tongue here. You're not really gonna get it all over the tongue. If you really wanted it to look like it was licking the knife, you're gonna have to have that knife shape there. Let's say we've got the knife. And then the tongue has to like go on top of the knife, right? Like it needs to like, a tongue is squishy. You know how squishy your tongue is. You have one. So if you should be able to squish it on top of the knife like that, right? Maybe not as dexterously as that. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of that going on. I don't really know what's happening here either. I don't know why you chose to make this light on the outside. Don't do that. And like you also chose, like you have like, it's a dark in front with a lighter outside. So you wouldn't have any of these highlights. All of these would be gone. If you just got rid of all these, it would improve it instantly. Like if I just like, yep. And you just had it on the outer edges. Like, you can even, like, keep this and then just have it, instead of, like, a black outline, really bump this. This is what we call rim light. You have that a little bit on the outside here. Easy. Already better. Right? That already feels a little bit nicer. But that's hard, suck it up. Who said art was easy? The secret to art is accepting that it's difficult and having fun with that. If you keep on trying to find the easy way out with everything, your art will suffer. Alright. And again, if I just darken up these edges here again. Much nicer. My biggest piece of advice is literally just, don't just draw stuff because you see the older artists doing it. Understand what the older artists are doing and learn from them. Right? Already the rendering looks automatically like a little bit better. You can even like bump that up here. Like if you just, instead of like making it all soft, if you just harden up those edges there. Much nicer. Much better. Alright? Easier that way. There's a lot more I could go on and about, but it's already 5. I'm gonna move on. Alright. My art style is weird. That sounds like excuses. Okay. This person. This is a person who, A, gave me a Google Drive properly, B, gave me a link to a file, or gave me a link to their handle that also has an attached social media. Thank you for that. It doesn't mean that you're gonna get it any easier. But thank you, at the very least. You have given me more than what others did. Okay, so. This is by Ponderosa143, who told me to say exactly that. She submitted this. These are her characters. Let's go over this really quickly, because this one is like, there's a little bit of rendering that I could talk about, but it really does just feel like, oh, I didn't feel like rendering this out, so I'm just gonna like do it only in black and white, black, no line weight lines, which again, I will say, yes, you can use no line weight lines, but if you decide to use no line weight lines, please make it so that there is a way to make your lines look more interesting, in which are have them drawn in a way where I can tell them apart a little bit easier. Excuse me. Oh, my bad. So let's say again that we've got this going on. Also, you clearly shaded in black. If you're gonna shade in black, then make sure that you have a reason to. Right now, it just feels like you just chose to shade in black because you don't know how to shade. So please shade with a different color. Appreciate it. So, again, if you're gonna have lineless lines, or line weightless lines, and like color in your lines, make some a little bit less opaque, do something else with them. Because if you're just gonna leave them all black, it's gonna look unfinished and look like you drew it in MS Paint. Which, I know some people who draw in MS Paint, but they can do it really well. That's not a compliment from my end. So, make sure that you are drawing in a way where, you know, it works. And then this shadow, let's take this color, hue shift, bring it down. Especially with this style, I would not soft shade any of my shadows. I would just make them all hard edged. It looks a little more cohesive. Here's the thing. Here's another thing that I've seen a lot of young artists do, or artists who are a little bit less experienced. Is a reason that some styles look better than others is because people learn how to make them cohesive and learn how to make them mature, right? There's a point where people will understand that some things just don't work together. A style like this that has a soft shadow like this does not look good. Like, you have all these hard-edged lines and all these hard-edged things that are going on, and then you decide, okay, I'm gonna now use the soft shadow, like the soft brush, and put that in there. No. What you're gonna want to do is keep it all hard-edged. That's what we call cohesion. It's what we call unity and harmony, right? We want to make sure that everything works together. Right? So already that looks 10 times better, right? And if you're gonna add the collarbone in there, you don't need shadow at all. There you go. Right? Done. Easy. Already 20 times better, right? Because you just change the rendering a little bit, right? You see that? Change the line color, change the way that these things kind of operate, right? I love working without line weight. I've been doing it a lot recently, actually. It's something that I really like doing for fun, right? I draw myself without line weighting a lot. I draw like characters without line weighting. Let me find one that has some... that does not have not nice words on it that I can show the stream. Give me a second. Okay, okay, there's a Pokemon one here. I can do that I did on my partner's channel. Let's find that. What's line weighting? Line weighting is when you change the thickness of your lines. I do that mostly. I'll show you line weighting versus no line weighting. Here's one with line weighting, here's one without. So, this one is with line weighting. You can see, oh, this is crunchy. I guess it's because it's small. You can see like the different line thicknesses, right? Some areas are thicker, some areas are thinner. Right, this is my partner. But like it's, right, you can see the difference in weighting with this one, right? You can see the difference with line weighting. This one has no line weighting. So this one is all like, I worked with one brush that has no weighting and then another brush that was slightly thinner, right? But notice how I chose to work and use everything with a hard edge. Notice that all my shadows are hard edged, even my highlights are hard edged, right? Because it feels more cohesive this way, right? It feels like it matches together. When you have a style that has this harsh, like, edged way of working, can you work with this style? Absolutely, but you need to make sure that you understand how that cohesion works. So if you just decide to go like, oh, I see some people do that soft shadows, I'm gonna put that onto my style. Oh, I see some people working with no line weighting, I'm gonna put that onto my style. Not everything is the right answer. Just because it works for some people, it doesn't work for everyone, right? With my style, like the way that I work with like more chibi-esque characters, I would never soft shade on that. Not to an entire extent anyway. It would be very, very minor if I chose to, but even then, right, I have a very highly rendered style, right? If I am working in a style that kind of looks like this, like if I have a piece where the lines are Like, there's no line weighting. It's a very low detail piece. I will not sit there and render out the inside of that. Like, if I have no line weighting on my lines and then I rendered out the inside, it would look so incohesive, right? We want to make sure that we understand that cohesion when it comes to drawing and finding a style for ourselves. Now, let me rip into the style more by telling you about why your anatomy is wrong. It's better to use a brush without stabilizer or use stabilizer. I use both. It depends on what you want to do. Okay. I think it's good to know how to work without a stabilizer, but you have it there, so use it. So I'm gonna sit here and I don't think you're here, but I'm gonna ask you why you decided to make your eye half the width of the head. I'm gonna sit like a third of the width of the whole head. Right? I'm gonna sit here and ask you that. I don't think you're here, but I'm gonna ask you why you decided that was a decision that you wanted to make, right? And then you decided to make your nose, because here's the thing as well. If you have the bridge of the nose right here, and it fits between those two eyes, if you're drawing that person from the front, that means that their nose is this thin. Or the bridge of the nose is this thin and then it branches out like this, in which then I ask you once again why. For what purpose, right? So let's talk about spacing of the head. When we have our head and we're drawing it, right? Generally, very, very generally, our eyes will be able to fit across our head 5 times. If we have one here, the space between those two eyes should be able to do here, and then you can see half of them through here because it curves around the side of the face. You should be able to have it go around 5 times. Does that work for everybody? Absolutely not. I draw my eyes like this, which means that they are far too large if we are to use that principle. You can put one of these eyes between these two for sure, but it is more like there's 4 eyes that wrap around the head by comparison to 5, right? It's when you over exaggerate it to a point where it does, once again, more stylized things. You have a more realistic shaped head and then you decided to draw the eyes like this, right? No bueno. So either you change the way that you draw your heads or shrink your eyes down just a little bit. And again, from the side, you're gonna change that eye shape there. Right? Easier to work with. Because even if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to keep these big rectangles. Let's do that too. Let's say you wanted to keep these big rectangles if you so chose, right? In which then you would just make them smaller. Kind of like that. But that looks a little bit awkward. So, it's up to you, really. Just, you need more space between here, bestie. You don't got room to breathe. It's the side views that are really, really bothering me. Oh, I forgot to censor this. Give me a second. Because you said some no-no words! Can't have that. On our good family-friendly channel, you can't say no words here. Let's censor that on the other side, too. So, once again, I ask you, why have you decided to make the eyes, like, a half or a third of the size of the face? Alright, let's take a look at yourself from the side, right? Let's take a look at those eyes. Let's see how far those go. Not very. Your eyes will actually end more like that. Even if you chose to make them a little bit larger, once again, I ask you, if we continue the shape of the head here, and if we have it underneath the hair, which, by the way, your nose is down here and your lips are up here. Why, pray tell, is your eye all the way up in the cranium? Why is it all the way up there? Okay, let's do some more measurements. So, if we have the shape of the head here, Which, by the way, if you have the shape of the head, right? Let's say that we've got that first sphere, that first circle, right? I'm keeping it so that the hair is above here. Because you do technically have the nose in the right place. Your nose, approximately like a third of the way down, halfway, you got it. You're good. Your eyes are halfway, but your nose is about a third, about a quarter, right? You got that kind of going down there. Sure, epic. See, if you got your nose there, your lips will actually go more like up here. Chin is down there. Now your eyes will be about halfway through the head in itself. They'll actually start closer to down here, right? And they also will not go all the way over here. I taught this to a friend of mine recently. Again, remember, our eyes are like spheres with a piranha plant's lips on them, right? It will change depending on the angle that you're looking at them. From directly from the side, that piranha plant lip is gonna come up and curve around like this. It is like the letter A with a curved end. And don't forget your forehead, because your forehead is very, very important. Let's take a look at that, right? See that difference? Easy, right? If you wanted to keep this more cartoony style, absolutely, you can make the eye bigger, but it should not be, so it's like you can see it. It shouldn't be the exact same size as when you look at them from a 3/4 or from the front, right? You can make them bigger. If you wanted to keep that rectangle, you would just have to make your eyes look like this. And this should also never be flat. You should always curve it. You just need to think of things in a more three-dimensional perspective rather than in a two-dimensional perspective. Everything that you draw is in 3 dimensions. Think of it that way. Same thing with this one, right? If this is the shape of the head here. Oh, your ear is too... Actually... See, your ear technically, yes, is the correct shape. It's like the correct size. It's just that the rest of your face isn't. So it's suffering because of that. Your chin also starts halfway through this circle. So if you've got that there. Again, are those rules you can break? Yes, but like it'll help if you don't. Oh, and his mouth is open. So this should be angled like this. Right? Your jaw is on a hinge. We've got our skeleton here. Right? Your jaw is on a hinge. This is a terribly drawn mandible, but whatever. When we move our jaws, when we talk, it will go backwards like this, right? It does not move up and down like this. It goes backwards. It is on a hinge. It will move backwards like this. So your jaw has to adjust for that as well, right? So your chin should be moving outwards like this. And your eye again, down here. I'm keeping the eyes and like the mouth and the nose a little bit more exaggerated because you have more exaggerated style. Right? Top of the eye, bottom of the nose. That's your ear. And it should attach to the side of the jaw here because right here is where your ear canal is. And then you would have your kind of like that. Alright? Your side views should not look the same as your 3/4. You gotta separate them. Okay. Oh, we've got 2 more. Okay. Alright. Another person, Adeline, she thankfully gave me her Twitter, Buffles Boston. She told me it was a Twitter, so thank you. Again, giving me more than the others did. You gave me a lot of rendered ones. This one, this style feels like somebody who's trying rendering for the first time and doesn't really understand it. And they're like, where they're kind of like, oh, smudge? I'm good. You know, doesn't really understand how we're going on about stuff like this. Oh my god. My voice hurts, man. I was roasting her, but it's really just teaching us stuff. If I'm like, if I've learned that if, like last time when I did this roasting stream, I was angry. Like I was legitimately angry. This time I'm just kind of irritable and tired. So all this means is just like, you're getting everything from me really, in a really exasperated manner. And me just being like kind of annoyed about it. Which I think, in some cases, I think that hurts more. Okay, there's a lot going on here. All right, most of this that I'm going to talk about is the anatomy. The rendering is not the worst, but it can be better. The thing that I saw with a lot of this person's work, when I saw a lot of your work, Adeline, she had like a few that were just like colored sketches or whatever, which are like fine, but I was like, okay, it's a sketch, it's whatever, it's too messy for me to deal with. But a lot of them were like these paintings where it still felt halfway done. Like with something like this, it feels like it's still on the in-between stages, right? Like you started rendering here and then you gave up, right? If you're gonna render in a way where, you know, you want like stuff to show up, like you wanted to, let's actually use something with a soft, a harder edge. If you wanted something like this to work, you're gonna need to like clean it up a little bit more. Let's, hang on, sorry, I should have done this with another layer. Oopsie. Let's do it so I can just render side by side. You're gonna want to clean it up more because what you're doing here is that you're starting with this more realistic rendering style, but you didn't finish it. So you need to make sure that you know, finish what you start, you know? Make sure that you are rendering with the shape of whatever it is that you are illustrating. Think about the form. Don't just think about, oh, I put that there, now I need to smooth it out. Not necessarily. You need to think about the form itself, right? And then the thigh underneath will curve like that, right? Already a bit of an improvement because I'm following the form that is available to me. This is with all rendering. If you are rendering something out, or if you're adding shadows to something, a shadow is not a line, it's a shape. Rem lighting is not a line, it's a shape, and you need to understand what direction that shape goes in and where it should go. Alright. Already it feels like slightly more complete, right? Because I went back in there and rendered just a little bit more. And again, still keeping the integrity of seeing, you know, what's it called? The brush strokes in there. This is also a 3D object. If you add in lines that look like this, it's gonna look concave. You're also gonna want to learn how these muscles work. It's not necessarily just a delt going into this. I'm not really the best when it comes to knowing the curves of arm anatomy as well. I'm better with legs. Like, they're similar, but they're not exactly the same. So it is more like... Because it does insert into here, but there's like a section here that's like a little bit different. Right, and then you got, but again, this is a bicep. It's gonna like, it's gonna look a little bit more like that. And it's your triceps back here. it's actually gonna look a little bit more like that, I think. I'm doing this reference list, don't hate me. But like if you really wanted those muscles to show up there, and then you would have the highlights, because your highlights, they will never go on the end. They will go on the section that protrudes out the most, especially if this person is shiny. They will go on the section that protrudes out the most. So in this case, it is the section that is, you know, the top of the bicep rather than the outer side. So what you're going to want to do is like have that on the top there. Yeah, the more tired I get, the more like helpful I get. Like it's Right. So rendering wise, right? You just gotta finish it. Like, it's not even like... I was looking at, like, this person and, like, the information they gave us. Like, I promise you, it's, like, it's gonna be, like... It seems hard to finish stuff right now. You want to do a sketch, you're lazy, you want to continue... You have other things to do, your life is, like, you know, busy right now. Your work will look a lot better if you sit down and decide to properly take the time. Maybe you're a slower artist, who knows? But if you sit down there and you take the time to do stuff like this, works a lot better. Trust me. Rather than just like, oh, there's a line, I'm gonna render around it, right? Take the time, sit down, finish what it is that you have in front of you, right? That's the rendering portion. I keep spelling render wrong. Whatever. Now we're moving on to the anatomy portion, which I see a lot of people in the chat are kind of getting annoyed by, which is great because I'm also annoyed by it. What brushes? A lot of them are mine. Or it's just stuff that I can't redistribute. So I already talked a little bit about, what's it called? I already talked a bit about the muscle stuff. Muscles are really, really advanced, especially if you're not really that into anatomy or whatever. First of all, you should be. Second of all, if you're not really into it, it's something that you're probably not going to bother with that much, but you should. You should always. So let's go into the general anatomy. I've given up spelling it right. Okay, let's take a look here. Because I don't really know what's going on here. We've got the delt here. Comes down into the arm right here. Let me just trace this really quick. We've got the arm here. Hand comes out like it's gonna slap something. It's a really big hand, by the way. And then we have the head here, which means that the neck is like down here, but we have our shoulders up here, in which then the upper torso is like this, but the forearm starts like... Oh, is that another end of it too? Is it up here? Okay, then why is the hand like this? And that means that the forearm goes back here. What? And then we have the spine here, and then there's the pelvic. And this is like a thigh, I think? And then we have this thigh here, and then the... What is this pose? What's the... I don't understand this... I straight up don't... I don't understand what this pose is supposed to be. I don't get it. Like, what am I... I don't think the artist is here. I'm trying to figure out what this gesture is supposed to be. Okay, so what I think is going on, if this is the pose that I think it is, this is the two things that I think it's supposed to be, right? We've got this one here, we've got the head. It's leaning down here. We've got one arm coming down. It's supposed to be resting on the opposite knee. Pelvis. And this thigh up here. And then this arm is up here. And it's supposed to be resting on it like this. That was my first thought. Or what they're trying to do is it's the person and they're like, it's an action pose. So then we have like one arm that's supposed to be foreshortened, and they're coming up like this. And then we have an arm back, like it's sideways. This arm is supposed to be back here, and they're doing this magic. Again, a foreshortened hand. And then they're like this. I think. Like, it's either this one and they didn't know how to foreshorten, or it's the other one and they were trying to sit down. I can't tell. I don't know. Let's take a peek here, right? So, what you have right now is this arm is coming up here, right? It's like the head is resting in the crook of the elbow, right? So if the head is right here, we're tracing the shape of the head, then it's kind of like this. Alright, we've got the upper bicep right here. I used to draw arms this big when I was in high school. Alright, we've got the hand coming down here, right? If the delta's up here, right, we've got our upper torso right here, then that means that our other delta's gonna be right here, right? Based on the angle of this and based on the angle of the chest, we're finding the center of the body right here. That means that our other shoulder is gonna be right here. The farthest of that shoulder, we should still be able to see it. Our shoulder should be coming up here if you really wanted that to be up, right? That's about as far as we could get with it still looking natural. This is a very unnatural looking pose. I don't really know what's going on here. And then we bring the hand down like this, right? That would be how this would go. This spine right now looks like it is hanging on for dear life. This looks like the upper torso kind of looks like it's not part, like this isn't a spine that's part of the body. It was like the upper torso was like shunted on top of it. Like, you know, when like, it's kind of like this is like a lollipop on top of like a stick, or like a bobblehead on top of its body, right? This doesn't make a lot of sense. What you're going to want to do, the spine starts at the back of the head and moves down behind the body. You can feel your, wow, voice crack. You can feel your C4 and C5. If you touch the back of your neck, kind of at the lower base of your neck, behind you, everybody can do this. If you kind of touch the lower base of your neck, on your back, you can feel two parts of your spine, one or two parts of your spine. There's your part of your cervical, is your C4 and C5, if I remember correctly. Hang on. Right? C4 and C5, right? No. C6 and C7. My bad. Okay, so you can feel your C6 and C7. Those are the two that you can feel right on the base of your neck. You can probably feel those too. But yeah, you can feel those. Right? So if this is where the head is, the back of the neck is right here. The neck curves inwards, assuming that this person is healthy, and the spine on the back will curve outwards like this. And because this is the lower back, we're starting our lumbar right here. The spine should be coming through here. And that's where it would attach at the ischium with the rest of the pelvis like this. Alright? So let's say we've got our spine. We'll give them a little bit of breathing room, sure. But our spine would come out here, and that's when you can feel your lumbar. I believe there's... how many sections of the lumbar? 5? Yes, five sections of the lumbar. So, let's say we can see all of them, sure. And then that would attach to the sacrum and the coccyx. And then you would have your pelvic bone, which I'm not going to bother drawing properly. But let's say we've got our pelvis like this, right? And that's where it would enter through. Right now we have our pelvis facing this way. If we had our spine like that, our pelvis would be far more back like this. We could have our thigh still facing here. Thigh muscles don't go like this. It's more like a V. You have your sartorius that comes down here. If you wanted your thigh to be facing directly from the front, but this one would be on its side, like Like, these legs aren't too bad. Like, you can just keep them if you wanted. But if you're going for a different pose for this leg, if you wanted these knees to be equal, you would have to foreshorten this thigh. And your patella would be up here. And then you'd have a little bit of your leg coming down here. It's up to you. But the spine was out of whack. I don't really get this pose. If you're really trying to do, like, a more... Poses being clear are really, really crucial when it comes to, you know, the sartorius. The sartorius is the longest muscle in your body. So, when you're doing a pose for any character, it is crucial that it is readable. If you cannot tell what this character is doing, your pose has already failed. Right? If you show it to somebody and they're like, what are they doing? Then you failed the pose, basically. You need to make sure that the character's pose is completely readable. You need to make sure that you understand what it is that you're looking at, right? Your pose should be understandable. You should be able to see what's going on. I haven't drawn a lot of difficult poses recently. Mine are all pretty simple as of late. If I don't show one that doesn't make me look insane. Yeah, no, I've got nothing recent that's that's like crazy difficult, I guess. Yeah, no, oh well. So, but you should be able to read a pose regardless, right? When you draw somebody, you should look at them and go like, oh, okay, that person is sitting, or that person is doing this, that person is doing that. It can be a crazy complex pose, but people should still know where the two arms are, where the two legs are, if there's that many, right? But they should still understand what's going on. Do a gesture beforehand, figure out your anatomy, figure out where stuff is supposed to go so you can read it properly, right? That kind of thing. You just gotta make sure that you understand what it is that you are handling in this situation. Right? Okay. Whew. Okay, last one. Oh, also, I don't understand what this rendering is. I don't understand what's going on here. Figure out your light source. Figure out what your light source is supposed to be. Let's take a look at this one. See, this person, Candy Wyvern, thank you for submitting. They gave me a handle for YouTube. Their handle is Candy Wyvern 8638. Thank you. And they also submitted to a Google Drive folder, so thank you. Because you have done more than most. So, any tips on working faster? Except the fact that you can make mistakes. Oh my god. Are you really taking this long to crop? Come on now. I think there's meant to be a wall behind them. No, I understand what's going on in this perfectly. I understand what's going on. There's just stuff that's wrong with it. There we go. Fantastic. Sorry, it took a while for it to set in that I was making the canvas larger. I think this is a really big file. Hang on. If it's really big, actually, let me make it smaller. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sheesh. Yeah, they submitted their full size. Good job working on a 4K screen. I'll commend you for that. Good job. Okay. The funny thing with this person is that this was not going to be the one that I was going to go over. They gave me another one that was a background, quote unquote. And what they said was, oh, the reason why the rock is so detailed is because that was the only thing that I could reliably shade at the time. I'm gonna be honest, it was a lasso tooled shape with a soft edge brush like swiped across the bottom. That didn't look like a rock, it looked like a lasso tooled shape with a shadow swiped across the bottom. Could I have ripped into that one? Absolutely. But they had more character art, so I felt that this would be more beneficial. The other one was like, it looked like a one-off, and it really wasn't great, and I was like, okay, we're not gonna bother with that. So, we're gonna go over this one instead, because I feel like with this one, me going over this one and critiquing this one and roasting, I guess, like just exasperatingly giving you advice with this one, it makes a little bit more sense. First of all, the first thing that I'm going to talk about rendering-wise, right? Line weighting in the back. Whoops. Hang on. Let's organize these layers again. There's line weighting in the back here. No line weighting with the characters. Make sure that you keep it consistent. If you have line weighting in the back, those characters are going to have line weighting. If you have no line weighting with the characters, that background's going to have no line weighting. Make sure that you keep it consistent. And then you use a stamp brush for your clouds and your trees, but these characters look like Lego figures. So if you're going to draw very cartoony looking characters, if you would just kept your trees like that reads enough like a tree. Like you could just like, oops. You could even have like a branch or two sticking out of it if you really wanted. And it feels more cohesive that way. Same thing with the clouds. You just make them more cartoony. You can make them into like a simple shape. The thing with young artists is they see all these really complex artists and they go, oh, I have to look like that. No, you don't. I spoke at a high school recently and they asked me, and one kid came up to me and was like, hey, are there any improvements to my style that I can make? And I looked at his work and I was like, why are you rendering? And he was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, your work is so simple. It's so cartoony. It's so like graphic. Like focus on that. Don't try and paint on a style that looks like that. If you have this like perfectly graphic cartoony style, stick with it. Don't try and force it into something that it's not, right? So let's take a look at this, right? More rendering things, right? The bricks. You can just keep them like that. Swipe a shading on the bottom, you're good. Even because it's a background, you could have given it the exact same treatment as this sky. You could have just like, the bricks could have been rendered like, let me take one of these colors. If you just had like the wall here, and then you chose like the darker color and you just like, you chose to like bring out a couple bricks, that works just fine. It works better than this. Like you spent a really long time with all those stones, but it takes away from the focal point, which is the characters, right? Everything else should be second to your main focal point. So because I'm seeing these bricks and I'm like, oh, those are kind of busy, they're kind of taken over, these characters are less important now. There's also no shadow. Don't forget your shadows. Very easy. Just whoop. Where'd my brush go? And whoop. There you go. Shadows. now they're on the ground. Alright? But yeah, have like make your background simpler. Simplify. If you want to do more intensive like rendering stuff, absolutely go for it. Nobody's stopping you. But nobody said that you had to. You know? Like it's so like, I find that people are so afraid of simplicity. Like, there's something so fun and so, like... There's something so fun and so, like... interesting about really simple characters that, like, people just kind of young artists just kind of forget about sometimes. I noticed the characters first. I also noticed the characters first, but the wall felt too busy. It takes away from it. Like, imagine if you had, like, this really simple wall by comparison to... like all this line work. Actually, let's do that. Let's say that I took away this section here and turned it into the same wall that it was in the back, or like the same way that it looks to everything else. Right, like it highlights the characters a little bit more. I'm just gonna do it around this character, but it highlights them a little bit more, right? And now it reads like brick. right? That's it. That's all you need. And it still reads like brick, and it still feels more like it still works, right? There's more work done on the wall than the characters, exactly. It feels like there's more rendering on the wall by comparison to the characters themselves. It is possible to have very detailed backgrounds, but also simple character, and the characters are still the focal point, right? And it is possible, but you need to use strategies to make sure that the background doesn't overtake the character, right? You can have, like, because, like, if you have, like, a Lego figure looking character, and then you have, like, a hyper-realistic, detailed background, it's gonna look awkward, unless if you are, like, a very seasoned artist. Because it's something that, like, really only seasoned artists know how to do. If you're a bit younger, if you're a bit newer to it, I would not do that at the beginning. I would start with either honing in on a simple style or honing in on something more intensive, and then learning how to be versatile from that. It's not easy. That's basically my main thing. No art is easy, but that specifically is really not easy. Let's talk about the anatomy bit. We've got about 10 minutes left. My voice is hurting. I'm tired. I'm sweaty. I'm ready to end this stream soon. Okay. Now, what you have given me right now is room to talk about dynamic poses. By all technicalities, by all very, very baseline technicalities, there is not much wrong with the anatomy. Like, maybe your eye could be shaped more like this instead, rather than have it printed on. Maybe you could shape the face a little bit more here, again, side eye, like that instead. Your arm is too far back here. Probably bring it back up here, and it's also kind of awkward in this position, or like, you know, maybe have more indication that this arm is doing this, right? What we have here is not super incorrect anatomy. What we have here is anatomy that isn't pushed. This is a dynamic pose. It feels like brickwork, right? It feels too precise. It feels like you're being too safe. It does not feel like an action. It feels like it's been posed, right? When we are drawing actions, we want to make sure that we, you know, when we do actions, we want to make sure that we are keeping the dynamism of the pose true, right? We don't want to make it so it's like, oh, you know, this person's holding up a shield, I'm just gonna draw them so their torso is straight up, and then we have, like, one leg back, and one leg forward, and then one arm up. This looks like a statue. If this person is very quickly raising their shield, right? Also notice this, right? It's very, very stiff. It's very, very, like, vertical, and then one diagonal, and vertical, almost horizontal, but still diagonal, right? But it's all kind of pointing back, right? It's all very robotic. Right? You have parallel lines here. You shouldn't have that. These are all very, very parallel, right? If we have a person holding up a shield, and they're very, very quickly doing it, their arm is gonna be, maybe you can even tilt the head back like this. That arm is gonna be thrust up. That shoulder is gonna be up. That elbow is gonna be up. Hold that arm strong. That shield is gonna be strong up there. You'll have a twist in the body probably, right? With one leg pushed back. And then one in front. That twist in the body is the most important section, right? You wanna have that twist going on. Your pelvis pointing more forward like this, but your torso pointing like this. You might have one arm kind of going backwards like this. Right, dynamism. Very, very important. The quicker you move your stuff. The problem is, here's another issue with people who start out with dynamic poses. Right? Because a lot of the times when we talk about different posing, we're like, oh, this is a half pose. Oh, this is a 3/4. Oh, this is a... If you have an exact half, if you have an exact 3/4, if you have an exact full frontal, that pose is not dynamic enough. 99% of the time when you are 100% of the time when you are working with a dynamic pose, if you can split your pose into perfect fractions, it is not dynamic enough and it is stiff, right? Notice how this is a perfect side view. This is a perfect side view. We can see everything from the side perfectly, right? This one, this is like it's like a 7/8 almost, a little bit awkward because it's tilted. This body is twisted. You have this section of the body, you can see more of the back. This section, you can see more of the side, right? This foot is probably, you're going to be able to see the toes on the front here. And this one, you're going to see more of the heel, right? There will never be a perfect angle, right? Your gesture is missing. Your movement, your dynamism, right? That's with the shield. That's not even the more dynamic pose. The more dynamic pose is the person who's jumping with a sword, right? Let's take this person with the sword really quickly, right? They are jumping, holding this sword backwards, but it's almost like they're just kind of, you know, this pose almost right now kind of just looks like this person's in free fall and they're letting their arms go backwards like this. And one leg is straight out and the other one is just doing this, right? That's what this pose looks like right now, right? That's super unnatural. Doesn't really look great, right? If this person is holding this sword back, they're about to slash, right? Again, another twist in the body. Let's say we have our head facing upwards like this. You're gonna see the bottom of the head like this. Everything far, far back. Twist. So we have one shoulder over here, another one over here. Front of the chest like this, if this person is jumping downwards. And then a twist in the body like here. There's a couple ways that you could do this one, right? If you really wanted to do this one. I'm trying to think how to do this. Okay. So if we had, like, again, if we just kept this up here, right? We have one delt really into the crook of the neck here. The other one down here. What you can have is, like, this is a tough one. The one that I'm trying to do. Hang on. You're a bit more of a beginner. Let's not do that one. So, let's say if we have this one, if you wanted to keep that sword back there, right? You can have this head again at a slight angle, like that. I'm gonna make it slightly less dynamic than what I was thinking. This bicep will actually do better if it's foreshortened. You have that there. And you can bring the forearm across the body here. So now this arm is holding the sword back like this, like he's readying to slash, right? And then you have your other hand, maybe this one is also holding the handle of the sword like this. Right, so your chest is facing more like up here because he's readying, this person is readying their sword and they've like slashed backwards, right? They're holding this back, right? Behind them. They're about to slash. And if you still wanted them jumping, again, twist the body a little bit. You can have this leg up. Have this leg up if you wanted. And then this one back down. This person is going upwards, so you'll see the bottom of the foot a little bit. And this one will be pointing downwards like that. Like, that's one way you could do it. There's a lot of ways you could do this one, really. This is probably not the one that I would go for. There's a twist here, right? Twists are really important when it comes to action. The main thing that I would suggest is think like an animator, right? When you are like this one, think of your principles of animation. This pose is supposed to be your follow through. You are putting up the shield and they've just you know, put up the shield, they're putting it right in front of them, right? You don't want it so that they're just putting up the shield. You want it a little bit after they've put up the shield, so it's kind of swaying a little bit farther to the side. This person is the, not the follow through, like the pre-action, whatever, I forget what that's called, right? It's the one that comes before. So this person is the build up, the wind up, the whatever it's called. This person is building up. You want that frame right before they start to strike, right? So it's like them reeling all the way back. It's them pulling all the way back, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna strike, and that's what makes them look really, really powerful, right? It's what makes that pose look really, really powerful, and they're about to strike, right? This one I would have exaggerated more. I probably would have pulled that sword back more. Probably would have pulled that arm back more too, but, you know. Because especially with animation, exaggeration is everything. So, like, even if it doesn't feel, like, do it to what is realistic, and then push it a little bit more, and it tends to look a little bit better that way, rather than trying to do it exactly. But it's the same thing, like, when people say that you're drawing a punch, don't draw the person punching, draw the, like, second after they have punched, right? They punch the person and there's a little bit of follow through, right? It's like if you have this person and they're like, he's like fighting this person, he's like, oh, you punched him, right? You don't draw this. You draw after he's punched him. So it's like, let's say that he's doing like an uppercut. Right? You draw the seconds after he's been punched. You don't draw the direct punch, you draw what happens after it. And it feels a lot stronger. Anticipation, thank you. Yes, it's called anticipation. Okay. Alright. It's 6 o'clock. My voice hurts. I'm tired. But alright. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for coming back after the holidays. Thank you to everybody who submitted, and a special thank you to everybody who submitted and allowed me to create your work on stream. That takes a special kind of confidence, so good job to you. Next week, oh yes, to all of you who submitted, and for those of you who submitted and I was able to create your work on stream, I will be emailing each of you these working files. They are yours, so you can take note of them and have them as reference, and I will also be emailing you personally, so those will be yours to keep. But yes, next week, what are we doing? Oh yeah, sorry, ad read. It's been 2 weeks. Don't know too much about us, don't know too much about the studio. We're not just a YouTube channel, we're also an art studio. Be sure to check us out on wingcanvas.com. That's where our classes are. Oh, all of my assets are shifted. I'll have to fix that. Yes, wingcanvas.com, that's where our classes are. Our classes are starting back up tomorrow, really. So I will be teaching again. I think my classes are still full. But it's there. Thank you for the $2.99, Sue. Thank you for the $2.99 dono. But yes, wingcanvas.com, check out our classes. These files will not be up, but normally we would have the JPEGs from our streams uploaded to the Discord, !Discord. And then our working files will usually go on our Patreon and our YouTube memberships. So when we have those, I actually need to upload mine soon, but those will be available soon enough and will be uploaded there. Alright, next week, actually, what do we have Sunday? We have a Sunday stream, right? I think so. Let's see for a second here. Yes, so Sunday will be, it's funny, Sunday's gonna be a tips for drawing desserts, and then I will be having a stream which is called Dessert Design. So it's just drawing a dessert concept art. Which is gonna be interesting. I guess I have to figure out how to do that. But okay. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see y'all next week. Au revoir. Bye-bye.